Hi, everyone, and welcome to Sunday Talks within the Nine-Sided Circle at our usual time, 6:30 Pacific Daylight Time currently, p.m. I'm one of your two hosts, Noor Kyle.
And I'm the other one of your two hosts, Mushtaq Ali.
And thank you for joining us, whether you're joining us live, we have a few friends here, or you're joining us over on YouTube. And on that note, we need to do a brief YouTube spiel.
All right, YouTube spiel, very brief. Please consider hitting the subscribe button if you are on YouTube and you're not subscribed to us. We would greatly appreciate it, and we promise to do our best to keep you amused. And we would also really appreciate it if you hit the like button for us, unless you hated us, and then you can hit the hate button, but we prefer the like button. And yeah, there are reasons for this, that we need your subscriptions and we need your likes, but I've gone into it in several other videos, so I don't want to belabor the point here. But let us say that we're trying to get up in the ranks for entirely altruistic reasons. Now you're going to have to go look at the other videos just to figure out what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, it'll be in our YouTube spiel on pretty much all the previous videos for the past month or so. So you can't miss it, really. But yeah, thank you for your help in helping us work towards getting our channel ad-free again. That's basically what we're up to. That's our purpose. So we are going to be talking about something very nuanced today on a lot of levels. We're going to be talking about poetry as kind of a home for spiritual mysteries, quote unquote, hidden in plain sight. So that's the topic of tonight's talk: poetry, a mystery hidden in plain sight. We're going to be reading a few poems today, focusing on the work of Yunus Emre and Ahmet Yesevi. And these are two poets from bygone times who are considered sort of contemporaries of Rumi and Hafiz. However, they don't have the same level of fame that Hafiz and Rumi have today. Do you want to tell us a bit about that, Mushtaq?
Sure. So we'll start with Yunus Emre. Now in Turkey, everybody knows Yunus because Yunus was a Turk, and he reached a high spiritual station. He was the student of Tapduk Baba, who was the student of Hacı Bektaş Vali. And that actually puts him in the same lineage as Ahmet Yesevi, one branch of it, so that these two are related, which is why I think we chose them. Yunus wrote poetry in the language of the people. At the time he was alive, and he was a contemporary of Rumi, more or less, all of the court language was in Persian. Rumi wrote in Persian, he wrote in Farsi. And it's beautiful what he wrote, but it was not accessible to the lower classes oftentimes, whereas the poetry of Yunus was accessible to the wild Turks of the mountains.
Yeah, he was a pre-literate shepherd, right? I don't think he wrote at all. It was,
Yunus?
Yeah.
Oh no, he was quite literate. He was a qadi before he was a dervish.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, a judge. Yeah, I forget who you're thinking of, but you're thinking of another very important poet. Yeah. There's actually a fun TV show out of Turkey that takes hours and hours to watch, which is on the life of Yunus Emre. Highly jazzed up for TV. But yeah, so Yunus's poems are sung today, and I will actually put up a couple of his poems being sung by contemporary groups. in the forum for people who want to listen to it. And you know, his poetry is like revered, and rightly so, because it contains teachings in it that are accessible at a number of different levels. Now, Ahmet Yesevi, he's 200 years before Yunus. He is the headwaters of the rivers of Turkish Sufism. He is the first of the Turkic saints. He trained directly under Yusuf Hamedani. And he was the third successor of Yusuf Hamedani, for those of you who care about such things. And the only writing that we have of his is one book called the Divani Hikmat, which means the poetry of truth. And it has been translated into English a couple of times, poorly, both times, unfortunately. And again, his Turkish is not the Ottoman Turkish. It doesn't have all of the Persian loanwords and everything. It's like Seljuk Turkish. It's like the Turkish of the steppes before they got all snooty and had palaces and stuff. But his poetry is very, very profound, even if it's hard to read in English, as you will discover as the evening goes on. Because I'm going to be retranslating it as we go, I think. Not that my Seljuk Turk is very good at all, but I have, my teacher was an expert in it, so I have some sense of the meaning of it. So there we have it. Now, Gurdjieff talks about this idea called legominism. A legominism is a teaching or an idea or something important that is embedded in something, a work of art, a piece of dance, or a poem. And Yunus's poems and Ahmed's poems are legominisms. They have deeply embedded secret teachings for anybody to find. Now, before we get into this, like a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, probably, we did a talk on the Sufi method of reading sacred texts. And I'm going to put a link to that at the end of this video.
We'll make sure that's there. Yep. Because I think it will prove to be a really good companion to this talk. Plus, you know, any of the poetry sessions that we do, or any of the readings that we do outside of our group time together, I think it would be worth revisiting that. So take that extra hour when you get the chance.
Yeah, it was actually a very important talk. And because the topic is not all that popular, it hasn't had that much view, but it's one of the talks, like if I pick the top 10 talks that you should listen to, this is one of them. So we'll put a link to it. You can listen to me and Ilmar arguing about stuff. So, Noor, what is our first poem for the evening?
Ooh, all right. I suppose I will read our first poem for the evening. This is a Yunus Emre poem. Here it is. Okay. A single word can brighten the face of one who knows the value of words. Ripened in a glance, a single word acquires a great energy for work. War is cut short by a word, and a word heals the wounds. and there is a word that changes poison into butter and honey. Let a word mature inside yourself. Withhold the unripened thought. Come and understand the kind of word that reduces money and riches to dust. Know when to speak a word and when not to speak at all. A single word turns a universe of hell into 8 paradises. Follow the way. Don't be fooled by what you already know. Be watchful. Reflect before you speak. A foolish mouth can brand your soul. Yunus, say one last thing about the power of words. Only the word I divides me from God.
Bada boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think? What is this saying?
I could even read it a second time.
You should read it a second time.
Okay. Yeah.
So is there any chance you could just put it in the chat also?
I
Sometimes
actually wondered about that. Unfortunately, I'm working from a hard copy version.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will read this twice. We can read them all twice, maybe. Okay. A single word can brighten the face of one who knows the value of words. Ripened in silence, a single word acquires a great energy for work. War is cut short by a word, and a word heals the wounds. And there's a word that changes poison into butter and honey. Let a word mature inside yourself. Withhold the unripened thought. Come and understand the kind of word that reduces money and riches to dust. Know when to speak a word and when not to speak at all. A single word turns a universe of hell into 8 paradises. Follow the way. Don't be fooled by what you already know. Be watchful. Reflect before you speak. A foolish mouth can brand your soul. Yunus, say one last thing about the power of words. Only the word I divides me from God. What do you and your puppy think, Chris?
Yeah, it's a nice demonstration of the transmutational power of word.
Yeah. I wish we had this written out in front of you guys, but I think you're right about that, because we're talking about ripened into silence, a single word acquires a great energy for work. And I think that relates to a lot of what we discuss here about, creating and allowing and sustaining the energy we need to do the work that we do here. And then, of course, we're talking about literal change, which is cutting short war, healing wounds, changing poison into butter and honey. Universe of hell into 8 paradises. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Even the word in Turkish, in Turkish, the word for word is kelime, which comes from the root kalam, from the Arabic, and it all means a word, an utterance, but it can imply a conversation. You know, the idea of speech.
Hmm.
And of course, hopefully everybody at this point is thinking of the Gospel of John. Y'all remember how the Gospel of John opens?
In the beginning was the word.
Yes.
Do you remember the second line?
That's too much to ask.
Oh, come now. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, in the Greek, the word that they use for they're translating as word there is logos. And logos means word. It also means proportion or ratio. And I'm not saying that you can apply the one to the other here, but maybe you could.
Well, it would have different connotations than the English word. Because the English word doesn't imply mathematics.
No, but logos does.
Mm-hmm.
And if you understand that to the, especially the pre-Aristotelian or pre-Socratic philosophers of Greece, and to the post ones, the idea of ratio was incredibly important. They thought that all the universe was going to resolve into perfect ratios. They were wrong, but they thought that.
It's just interesting because in English, language and mathematics are contrasted as though they're opposites almost.
Yeah.
And it's a very different attitude to think that they're roughly the same thing.
Yep. But then you have, Johnny has 10 apples. He gave 3 apples to Sue and 2 apples to Fred. But then he went and hit Charlie over the head and took his 8 apples. How many apples does Johnny have? Language and mathematics come together.
Oh, they do. And I've been told that you can teach arithmetic and algebra, I guess, to people who are word oriented by teaching them to think of equations that don't work as being ungrammatical.
Yeah. And it's true, especially for algebra.
Okay, I'll bite. I mean, the last line of that poem is obviously, something that covers all of the non-dual traditions. But before we get into that, I guess my question would be, when he's in this poem, is he talking about any language, any word, or is he talking about special words which are somehow imbued with a load of meaning, which has some kind of a psychological or spiritual effect?
That's a good question. What do you think?
Well,
what does the poetry tell you?
Well, you certainly, that's why I would like to read it actually, but at first or second hearing of it now, it sounds like he's talking about any word, right? And he's advocating for the careful use of words, not blab the first thought that comes to the mind like I do sometimes, but rather, ponder, let it percolate for a while and see what the various implications are. But that suggests almost like a laden word, a word that's not just simply and or but or dog. Pardon me, Chris, but a word that has some weight to it, and presumably that weight is culturally acquired, I suspect. But so it seems to me that it would probably hold the most true of these meaning-laden words rather than cornflakes or Rice Krispies or something like that.
Interesting idea. I'm trying to compose a poem in my head right now that has profound spiritual significance and contains cornflakes.
I figured you might be doing that, so I'm all ears.
The cornflakes of God.
Cornflakes of God, yes. But the
I could
reason
do one for bacon.
the
Ruffles
bacon
and
is
feathers.
the pig is committed, the chicken is merely a participant in the feast. All right. I guess.
You were going to say, Noor?
I was just gonna hassle you. That's all.
I think you should. I think the man needs some hassling here. So go
Oh,
for it.
well, mostly I'm just trying to figure out if I can share a file with you guys since I just took a picture of the book, but I'm not quite sure how to do that.
No,
I
you
want to
can
hear
also.
the bacon poem.
What's that?
I want to hear the bacon poem.
You want to hear the bacon poem?
Give me the first line of the poem again, Noor.
Sure. I can do that. A single word can brighten the face of one who knows the value of words. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. I think he's going to cut and paste.
Then let's take the cornflakes of God. I mean, their cornflakes got its import because of its connection in your sentence to God, right? If I said, cornflakes came out of the Kellogg's box, it probably wouldn't have the same resonance, right? So it's not the word cornflakes itself, but rather the context in which it's used, right? I'll let you do your pasting first.
Yeah, you're the one who wanted to read this.
I am indeed.
There we go.
Nice. Okay, I see it now.
Yeah, I'd
Oh,
like to
good.
comment.
Yeah.
Yes.
To me, every life event has an essence that can describe the event. So let's take, for example, I've got acid reflux. I can be trying to say, oh, well, I've got this, it's burning down here and I've got all these, and it hurts here and it hurts there. And I can try and describe what's going on. Or there's an essence to what I'm trying to express. And one word might be pain. It's like they say a picture can paint 1,000 words or describe 1,000 words. Well, the right word, that's the essential word, can describe 1,000 words also.
Perhaps in the right context, maybe? Do you think it's context dependent?
I don't understand your question.
Well, acid reflux, probably. I mean, in the context of my being in pain and maybe being visibly in pain, you saying, my saying it's acid reflux carries a lot of meaning to it, in the context of looking in a drugstore at various boxes on the shelf, saying this is good for acid reflux has a somewhat different meaning, right?
So I might I might point to my stomach and the expression on my face, and I'll say pain in such a way that the person hearing me just catches exactly what I'm saying. They're like, oh, I know what you have. I know what you're suffering from.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sense to me.
All right. Dr. Kellogg gave you cornflakes to make you forget the curve of the cheek of your beloved, not realizing that longing that you feel for your beloved's sight is both the poison and the cure.
Those damn cornflakes.
Those damn cornflakes, but you can work them into a poem.
Yeah, and it's actually historically correct.
Yes. Hey, I didn't live that far from Battle Creek for years, so. Crazy dude. Was afraid of his own willy.
And it's putting that word into the context of your brilliant poem there that gave it its power, right?
Yep. My brilliant and amusing poem.
Of course, and somewhat cynical, but no.
So I don't think that will ever rise to the level of being a legominism, unfortunately. Alas.
It might need some work. Or it might not deserve it. I don't know which.
Some workshopping. Yeah.
Just some milk on top of it will be fine.
Just don't leave it too long. It'll get soggy. Unless you like it like that.
Butter and honey.
Yum. Yes.
Getting back to the poem, there's that line about how, what is it? One word can scar the soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have it in the chat too. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So is it intended to be for can scar the soul of someone who hears it or of someone who speaks it, or maybe both?
Both.
Both, yeah.
Because anytime you act cruelly to another human being, you're scarring your own soul. There is no doubt about that. Eventually you end up with a soul that looks like Donald Trump's.
You know,
I still like picking on him.
It's interesting. I've recently been following a series of talks by Gabor Mate, and his point, of course, is that we live in a traumatized society and then essentially impose that trauma on others.
Oh yeah. Yep. And sorry, go ahead, Nancy.
I was just wondering who this person is, because I might want to catch up with them.
You're referring to the person I was talking about, or?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Gabor Mate. He's one of those sort of leading lights in. Well, there's a new film out now by the science and non-duality folks called The Wisdom of Trauma, which reflects some of his work, and it's actually available for free streaming right now, pretty much. And he also did a series, with the release of that film, a series of conversations with various leading figures in the trauma world. GABORMATE.
Okay. Yeah, there was just a thing I was reading about separating newborns from their mothers, which is still common medical practice. And that might contribute to people being crazy.
Or to people having been separated from their mothers, not given the tit when they needed one, essentially made to cry in their crib until they gave up and said, oh, all right, I've nothing more I can do about it, I'm just going to sleep, but that's sort of giving up.
There's a link to the thing.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, well, not only that, but this has been going on for a century or more. So You figure that the mother was traumatized, and that is going to affect her relationship to her baby when she finally is allowed to hold him,
Yeah.
her, whichever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a hell of a lot of cultural trauma around, but we're probably, I mean, I don't want to shift off to the topic of this poem.
Yeah.
Mention it as a sideline.
Something to revisit though, so I am appreciative that you brought it up. Yes, the poem.
Let a word mature inside yourself, withhold unripened thought. What are we talking about there? Is it?
Well,
Yeah,
sorry,
the
who's speaking?
thing that's interesting about this poem, and one reason we chose it, is because this poem is a set of instructions for a spiritual discipline. Done in poetic form. And so take each step as part of a whole. And that would be one of the steps that you just mentioned, Ilmar.
Mm-hmm. Again, we seem to be talking here about power words, so to speak, words which are laden with meaning. I mean,
The right word at the right time.
Yeah.
And it might be some incredibly important word, or it might be a simple word.
Mm-hmm. Like I.
Yeah, or yes, or no.
Yeah, that line about maturing inside, that's, to me, sounds like a seed word.
Mm-hmm.
A word, if you can implant in to someone, it will grow. It might be the word seed. You might be speaking to a woman who wants to have a baby, and if you say it just in the right way, it can grow.
So the line after it is withhold the unripened thought. Let the word mature inside yourself. Withhold the unripened thought and come to understand the kind of word that reduces money and riches to dust. So you got to take that as a whole. And one of the most important lines in the entire poem, know when to speak a word and when not to speak at all.
I mean, on a somewhat more mundane level, I mean, you see that all the time in counseling or therapeutic relationships. I mean, when someone is deep into, say, processing a traumatic incident, I mean, basically you're holding space for them, but sometimes the right word at the right time will let them see something which they otherwise would not have seen quite at that point. So,
Yeah. So if this poem were a set of instructions for a practice that you could do in your own life that would guide you to awakening, what would the practice be? That's the real question in this. This isn't just a bunch of pretty words that have a nice melody and you can get together with your friends and sing lots and lots of fun songs like this one. in most of Yunus's poems, he's asking you to do something. And they were all silent.
All right, all right. Well, I mean, obviously the last line gives one. I mean, contemplating on the word I can be very, very powerful.
Yes, only the word I divides me from God.
I mean, that was, you know, there's a whole tradition where basically, you know, just find out what the hell that word means, and you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Ramana Maharishi was big on that. You know, he said, ask yourself, who am I? Keep asking until you know. And he was absolutely right. If you did that, you would wake up. The thing is, though, that people, I mean, followers of Ramana, they read it, they think about it, they talk about it, they write scholarly papers on what he said, but most of them don't seem to be willing to sit down and do the work as required. Because if they did, there's thousands of followers of Ramana out there, and they'd all be enlightened.
Which is why you want to let that word mature inside yourself, right?
Yep. So are we ready for our next poem? Have we worked this out?
I think I have worked this out, and I also have it to cut and paste, but I want to read it first because I want you guys to focus on the sound, and then we'll go through it again, and I'll have cut and pasted the words.
Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. My love for you goes deeper than my own soul. My way amounts to this. I don't say I'm inside myself. I'm not. The I within me is deeper than myself. Anywhere I look, it's filled with you. Where can I put you if you're already inside? You are beauty without features, something deeper than any signs. Don't ask me about myself. I'm not inside. My body walks. I'm clothed yet empty. I can't lay a hand on the one who took me from myself. You can't go over the head of the boss. Some people get their share of revelations, and some people go deeper than this. In the beautiful light of his face is a fire brighter than the light of day. What a suffering it is that's deeper than any remedy. The law and the brotherhood are paths. Truth and wisdom are still deeper. They say Solomon knew the language of the birds. Within Solomon is a deeper Solomon. I've forgotten religion and piety. What if there's a doctrine deeper than religion? The works of those who leave the faith are blasphemy. What about a blasphemy that goes deeper than faith? Yunus chanced to meet a friend who showed him a door inside.
That's actually one of the really famous Ilahis that is sung all the time. I mean, that's one of the ones I'll see if I can find for you guys. Did you say that you found that one and can paste it up?
Yeah, it's just doing a weird cutting and pasting job, but I'm gonna get it. Oh, okay, it's because it has a character limit, but I will work with that.
By the way, these translations come from, what's his name? The Drop That Became the Sea. lyric poetry of Yunus Emre. Was translated by Rafik Algan, and then Kabir Halimsky took the Turkish and pounded it with a hammer so that it conformed to English. And it's a decent book.
Yeah. This is what it looks like. Hey, what are you doing, Fuzzy? Oh my gosh. Well, if there we
There you go.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so let's go through this again, shall we? All right. There it is. Okay. My love for you goes deeper than my own soul. My way amounts to this. I don't say I'm inside myself. I'm not. The I within me is deeper than myself. Anywhere I look, it's filled with you. Where can I put you if you're already inside? You are beauty without features, something deeper than any signs. Don't ask me about myself. I'm not inside. My body walks. I'm clothed yet empty. I can't lay a hand on the one who took me from myself. You can't go over the head of the boss. Some people get their share of revelations, and some go deeper than this. In the beautiful light of his face is a fire brighter than the light of day. What a suffering it is that's deeper than any remedy. The law and the brotherhood are paths. Truth and wisdom are still deeper. They say that Solomon knew the language of the birds. Within Solomon is a deeper Solomon. I've forgotten religion and piety. What if there's a doctrine deeper than religion? The works of those who leave the faith are blasphemy. What about a blasphemy that goes deeper than faith? Yunus chanced to meet a friend who showed him a door inside. So I don't mind starting a bit. I think for some reason, this poem really made me think of Conference of the Birds. And that is referenced here because we hear about Solomon, who is able to speak the language of the birds, and he is referenced in the conference. But as far as the overall flavor and implications of this poem, I think it certainly mirrors a lot of what is discussed in Conference of the Birds. So what do you guys think? Many of you are there, so I'm hoping some of that might come back to you.
Yes, I had a thought.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's describing a journey inwards for those that are able. A journey that can take one behind the personality, first to the soul or the essence of someone, but then it says even the soul, that there's something deeper than the soul. And that, I'm thinking, is seeing one's eye from witnessing it from a universal perspective. Something like that.
I do think you're onto something there. Yeah. Because there's a theme of emptiness here, right? But the ultimate is not necessarily empty. So it does seem that we're talking about something that is kind of a throughway to that, to the real, let's say, capital R real. What do you think, Nancy?
Well, I was thinking it's not so much, I'm not seeing the theme of emptiness so much as a theme of beyondness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That, you know, there's this superficial layer of the world, and then there's something more real underneath it that may be contrary to the world in some aspects.
May well be. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me look at that line again. It was about the getting beyond oneself or beside oneself. What was it?
Yeah, take a minute.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Let's see. I can't lay a hand on the one who took me from myself.
Mm.
Yeah, which of course capitalizing one kind of makes it a little different.
It does. That's why I really felt it was important to hear this before getting the cues from the text, because those are not necessarily the experience you would get from having this be spoken to you, having that be the way that this language is conveyed to you via oral presentation.
Yeah, because on the first pass, I wasn't sure whether having something that takes you from yourself is a good thing or not. And then of course we get the you can't go over the head of the boss, which is very colloquial.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, this is saying there's an ultimate reality that you can't get beyond.
Yep.
Yeah. Not sure if I've got anything more at this point.
Okay, sure. But that was great stuff, Nancy. Thank you.
Welcome.
What do you and Pepper think, Chris?
The whole poem is like a meditation, and I'm like seeing as the poem is being read, as I'm listening to it, it's like I'm imaging these things as I'm experiencing it. So it just the power of the experience of hearing it or reading it is something to be experienced. Like I want to keep doing this on my own. So that's the practice that I can see from this pretty clearly.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. And I hope that, especially if you have the opportunity to go back and listen to our Enneagram of receiving insights and all that stuff that Mushtaq is going to link to, I think you'll be able to utilize that practice in reading things like just like this in the way that you're talking about. Yeah. Welcome, Mustaqim. It's good to see your face. Salams. Yeah. You know, I have a question for you, Mushtaq. I don't know if you're able to answer this. I just kind of picked my own stuff, and I think I'm pretty pleased that this coincidentally happened to be a very traditionally, very appreciated piece, because I think that is relevant to the story, the overarching story that we're talking about here. But Mushtaq, I was curious, so we have the law and the brotherhood are paths. So law, would that be like Sharia?
Yes.
And the brotherhood, I wasn't oh, okay, cool. Got it. So are they speaking of them as implied separate almost here?
Not separate from each other, but separate ways to try and accomplish the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So your average so-called Orthodox Muslim, there is no such thing as an Orthodox Muslim, by the way. The Prophet made sure that there wasn't. But we call it that now for whatever reason. Your everyday Muslim is going to use the Sharia as a path to the divine.
And, you know, this is like praying a certain way, practicing hygiene a certain way, eating a certain way, all of those daily things that are kind of laid out for you in a way that is said to be following the example of the prophet and adhering to things that are said in the Quran and in the sayings of the prophet and such. So that's why it's called the law. Similar to Jewish law in a lot of ways. And then the Brotherhood, as Mushtaq mentioned, the Tariqa, that's like this, I mean, would you say that's not necessarily Sufism at large, but like the path of being in a community and
Yeah, and
doing zikr and having a sheikh, all that stuff, right?
there's that, and there are the things that are related to it, like the guild systems that appeared in Turkey,
Ah, yeah, okay.
and they call it the Ahi systems, which were proto guilds for the West, actually.
Hmm. Okay, so that kind of touches on something that was going on in contemporary Turkish culture as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yep.
So whereas the first poem that Noor read is a set of instructions for doing practice, this is a set of contemplations. This is almost like a very long Zen koan.
It does have that vibe.
Yep. But at the end of it, there's nobody standing behind you to hit you with a stick. So you're doing okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Ilmar, what's coming up for you?
I'm finding this particular poem very moving. I mean, as in contrast to the first one, you know, this one strikes me as almost just an expression of God realization, or of whatever you want to call it, of realization, you know, as opposed to a set of instructions, you know. But and it's one of those, I think, that I would like to let percolate. You know, this is one of those, you know, it's more than one word, but it's one that I think would be well worthwhile, my wall at least, to let just sort of see where it takes me.
I love hearing that. Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
So I'll withhold any wise remarks at this point.
All right, you're gonna let the words ripen, let's say.
Right, exactly.
Very cool.
Looking at the time, I think we have time for one more poem.
Okay, so why don't we slip Master Yesevi on that?
That's what I was thinking. Great minds think alike.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Let's move on.
This, unfortunately, maybe we can type it out later, but we don't have it typed out because
this is the one you're kind of saying in real time. In a way.
I'm rewriting it as we go.
I believe in you.
So this is from this book. I love that it's in large print format.
Why don't you say the name of it for people who don't get to see?
The saying
visually?
is Ahmet Yesevi, first Turkish Sufi poet, selected poems, large print and large format edition.
There you go. Yep.
Put out by New Humanity Books, Bookhaven booksellers and publishers.
Okay, I'm gonna do a quick of that. So this is The Drop That Became the Sea, lyric poems of Yunus Emre, translated from the Turkish by Kabir Helminski and Rafiq Algan. This is by Shambhala, which is in Boston and London. So there you go.
Yeah, if you can just put a link to that, maybe.
I think,
that would be great, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Are we ready for this?
Yes.
Ms. Noor? Okay. Dervishes share stories of the road. Being easygoing, they always travel light. Forever, they take the journey. All they have is staff in hand, belt around the waist. Name of God is always on the dervish lips, moving. Robes so simple, a heart of 1,000 divinations, and the dervish, the two worlds, is now not knowing. The Lord's sweetheart, a dervish's grace, is the zikr. The name of the Lord, the dervishes silently are repeating. Dervishes don't allow mistakes or medicine to help. And they don't allow tears to dry from the tearing eyes. Words are sacred, spoken in the truth's language. In love, they give up soul, these dervishes. Aging, they kill the self like a dog and let a ruddy contemplation pale. Be the servant, Ahmed. Let the dervishes pass. Sorry for the stolted language. I can only do so much extemporaneously.
Well, thank you.
I think I will write this out tonight and write it the way that it's kind of more supposed to go, and then post it on the forum for you guys.
We'll do that, yeah.
And for anybody who's listening to this on YouTube who is not on the forum, you can join just by going down there in the links. Sorry, I had to get that in.
So I heard some themes of, you mentioned the word aging. When I hear
Yes.
that, I think of what Yunus was talking about in terms of maturing.
Yeah. And there is that. Plus, there's also aging and death involved in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ahmet Yesevi wrote these poems when he was probably in his 90s.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is very much a reflection on
Yeah, on the
where
path
he
for
come
him.
from. Yeah. And
So-
that makes me think of the last line when he says, "Let the dervishes pass."
Yep. Now, the first line, dervishes share stories of the road. Now, he translates it as the road there, but in the original Turkish, if my memory serves me well, it's tarika, it's tariq, which is the path. So there's a double entendre here. Being easygoing, they always travel light, forever taking the journey. Journeying is saluk, which is what a Sufi does. A Sufi is a traveler, one who journeys forth. So there's a bunch of wordplay in this that you don't get in the English. All they have is staff in hand. So the staff to the dervish is very important. Oftentimes these staffs are handed down from teacher to student to teacher to student for generations and generations, and belt around the waist. This belt is special. This belt is made of 99 strings and has these joints in it. Sometimes you'll see them using it as a turban on their hats, but it is a belt that aids in meditation. When a Sufi meditates, they will take this belt and wrap it around their legs in such a way that they can sit and let the belt hold them up so that they can forget about their body. So you have the staff, which contains a certain energy, and you have the belt. Now, this is telling here. The name of God is always on the dervish's lips, moving. The name of God is always moving through the dervish's subliminal speech. And it goes on here a little bit more. Robes so simple, heart of 1,000 divinations. The dervish, the two worlds is now not knowing, giving up the here and the hereafter, not caring about them anymore. Here it is though. The Lord's sweetheart, a dervish's grace, is the zikr. The zikr is the remembrance. And the name of the Lord, the dervishes silently are repeating. So, two kinds of zikr. Zikr-i jali, which is the loud vocal zikr that you can find on YouTube with hundreds of guys going, La ilaha illallah, in big circles, right? And this is a kind of ceremony. But there is the internal zikr, the zikr that is silent and hidden. And in Yunus's poem, he will tell you that there is a zikr deeper than zikr. And the only way to get to that is through the silent zikr. So the loud zikr you do with your voice. The silent zikr you do with your heart. Then there is the kind of zikr that has no words, that is pure remembrance, that goes from you to the divine and back. And that's what this is referring to here. Then, dervishes don't allow mistakes or medicine to help. What do you think that means?
You got any thoughts, Jonathan? What about you, Chris?
Chris, you should know this one.
I'm picking up.
No pressure though.
Yeah, right. I'm picking up a kind of unrelenting aspect to it, but I'm puzzling on this one myself, actually.
So, two things going on here. Go ahead. First, dervishes don't make mistakes, which is to say that you strive for perfection. And dervishes don't need medicine. You need to know that at this time and in this place, a lot of the Sufi orders use their Sufi houses as a place to consume a lot of opium. Sometimes cannabis, but opium was very popular. And this is, in a certain way, saying the mind-altering substances that you are using are not going to get you to where you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about that? And they don't allow tears to dry from their eyes. That doesn't mean that a dervish is sitting there weeping and crying all the time. It means that they never disconnect from their heart, from their emotional center, and from their longing. Here we go back to Yunus's poem again. Words are sacred, spoken in the truth's language. When it says the truth in the original text, it says al-haq, which is one of the names of God. And it is a name particularly beloved of the Sufis. Sufis oftentimes refer to God as al-haq, the true, and it means both the true and the real.
Yeah.
Then it says, in love, they give up soul, these dervishes, aging. Now,
Could you repeat
if you
that?
the English translation that I am given here is, in love they give up soul, these dervishes, but it should more probably be, in love they give up nafs, the conditioned ego.
Hmm. Okay.
Aging,
agent. So
yeah, aging can also, as Noor so rightly pointed out, mean maturing. Then it says, kill the nafs like a dog and let a ruddy complexion pale. That means be utterly ruthless with your conditioning.
Toward your conditioning. Yeah.
Yeah. Be the servant, Ahmed, let the dervishes pass.
This is where I felt like it was almost like a sort of passing the torch to the younger generation.
I think that there is a lot to recommend that position to it.
Mm.
Well, I was thinking this is from the point of view of someone who is not a dervish. They're observing dervishes.
Yeah, perhaps so. I mean, I guess I'm experiencing that right now as kind of like, you know, if the master is writing this piece in his 80s or 90s, not only is he kind of passing the torch, but it's almost like he's given up his nafs. He's absent now, similar to what we were talking about in the Yunus and Yesevi poem about going beyond, becoming empty to feel what is true about the fact that the one is who you actually are within, so to speak. So perhaps at this point, it's speaking from that place of abiding union with the real, and these dervishes who are still making their way on that path. It's kind of like you're both inviting them and allowing them to go through their journey, or, you know,
Yeah, it's written from the point of, it's written from the point of view of someone who has completed,
yeah,
looking at those who have not completed yet.
right. Yep.
it reminds you a little bit of Lao Tzu, and you know, the insistence that he write stuff down before they let him out of the town. You know, it's kind
Yeah.
of, yeah.
There's maybe a little bit of a parallel. All right, so there you have 3 poems to work with. And here's the sneaky bit on our part. If you really want to understand it, you got to go back and watch the video we did on a Sufi method of reading sacred texts.
Yeah.
That will give you the step-by-step method of taking these and other poems and understanding them in a much deeper way. So with this whole thing, this whole talk is a commercial to go back and watch that video that hardly anybody ever watched.
Sort of. I mean, it didn't start out that way, but we enjoyed revisiting that video so much that it feels like an opportunity to make sure that that work gets to be utilized and heard anew, because it is really good stuff. Yeah. So definitely inviting y'all again to check that out, and we will make that possible with a link. As far as these poems go, I think I am going to post them to the forum formatted as best as I can get them, and we'll get Mush Talk's interpretation of his Ahmet Yesevi poem out there as well, and then anyone can pop in and take a look at those. But we'll also link to the books as well, so you can check out the texts in their entirety, because someone did put hard work into translating these and publishing it. So we want to make sure that we acknowledge that. Yeah.
Yeah, the Yunus translation is quite good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have, my teacher had a few complaints about it, but of course he would. I, on the other hand, do not speak Seljuk Turk and had no complaints about it at all.
Yep. I just work with what I can read, and English is where I'm comfy. So that's what you got with me. All right. Do we have any last thoughts, Mush Talk, or anyone in the group?
Last thoughts. Yeah, join the forum. You'll like it.
Yep. And for everyone who joined us for this talk, thank you so much for allowing an opportunity for a bit of, contemplative activity. I think usually we're very chatty and lots of questions and stuff, but the thing about poetry and the thing about the way that we're working with it this evening is that it does take a bit of digesting, or as Ilmar said, percolating. So yeah, we welcome that, and we hope that you will check it out on the forum, revisit the texts themselves, and you can share with us what comes up for you in the comments on YouTube or on Facebook. And as you'll see, dialoguing about what has been inspired in you, or what insights you've received, that is part of this reading process that we share about in that other video. So we welcome that for sure. And that's all I got today.
Yeah, well, one more thing. Ilmar, you will enjoy this. I was working with a younger student the other day, and I used the word percolate. And she had no idea what I was talking about. Not one. And so I had to explain the process of making coffee back in the dark ages.
Oh, well, the joys of getting ancient, right?
Yeah, I tell you.
I mean, compared to people in their teens and 20s right now, I know that I have a long ways to go to catch up with you guys, but I'm already feeling totally out of the loop as it is. So I don't know, just got to let it ride, I guess.
When I was in my 40s, I would practically grab people and shake them and say, don't you know the world changes? And, after a while, I realized I was just boring people. So, and I'm not sure that you can appreciate it until you live through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some words have a special resonance, like to percolate. It's a lot more interesting than to draw a cappuccino or something like that.
Yeah. Or like people use the word grok, and I'm like, do they really know what that means? Have they read the book? I don't know. I mean,
very few in my experience really understand that word.
Yeah.
It's a lot to ask them to grok it, but the one that's been snagging me is put a penny in the fuse box.
Oh, wow. See, I don't know that one.
I know that one because when I was young, I was told, never do that, even though it works. Don't do it because you'll burn the house down.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't
and
know.
Of course, you did it, right? Come on, confess. You did it, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I think Nancy's going to need to confess first here.
Well, actually, I was going to say, the problem is I don't know of any more modern metaphor that conveys the idea of shutting down your safety warnings.
Oh my God. I don't know one either. That's insane. Is that what that means? Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Back in the day, we didn't have circuit breakers. We had fuses. And there was one particular kind of fuse that most houses used in the 40s and 50s and all the way up into the 60s, and they were round and they screwed into this socket. And the bottom of them just happened to be the same size as a penny. So if you blew your fuse and you didn't have any spare fuses because you were a fool and didn't have like 2 or 3 boxes lying around, you could go out and unscrew that fuse and push a penny in there and then throw the power back on, and it would work, except that if there was a flaw in the wiring, your house was going to burn down because there was no fuse to blow.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
And
I
you
don't know
just
how
clever.
had
people-
a critical
And
step,
terrifying.
which was
Yeah.
to turn the power off before you do that.
Oh my
yes,
God,
that's
I would
the other
fucking
thing.
hope
Do
so.
turn the power off before you put the penny in the fuse box.
Or rather, don't try this at home.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether Mushtak gave the crucial piece of information. The point of having the fuse was so it could melt,
Yes.
so that it would, if there was too much electricity going through, which might burn the house down, this would
Right.
keep it from doing that.
It's
But of
supposed
course,
to be a
then-
fail safe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
All right.
We are a funny species. All right. So we are going to end the recording. So let me switch
Hooray.
into Brady
Brady
Bunch
Bunch
mode real
mode.
quick. Brady Bunch mode. And everybody,
Wave
wave
goodbye.
goodbye.